This just in, you are watching episode 214 of the Positivity Hour, and in today's episode, I want to talk all about how I overcame imposter syndrome and how you can do it too, as well as, it's Black History Month, so let's talk about that as well. All that and more after the intro. Let's get to it. Woo! All right. Normally I do a clap, in the intro. I just didn't do it today. So welcome to the podcast, now that I've officially clapped. I remember back in the days when I had to do that to sync the audio between the tiny mic and the camera. But now, the tiny mic records straight to the camera. Technology, it's a beautiful thing. So thanks for watching. Thanks for coming in here. I'm your host, Darshaun Smith. All that doesn't matter, though. You came for the content. So let's get to that.
Time capsule.
For today's time capsule, I want to talk about two people in particular, okay? ZORA HURSTON and Carter G. Woodson, okay? These two influential people, the second of which actually is the founder of the whole concept in which we now celebrate in February of Black History Month. But before we get to the history of Black History Month, I want to talk about ZORA for a second. I was thinking about like what to talk about with these people, or what should I cover? Is it like their books, their impacts, their life, because a lot of influential Black people that really got this thing going in this country are dead, and now we're as a population, just not even just Black people, but just as a country, we're in a position to where, things are a little all over the place right now, it must be said, and we gotta, help each other be great. It just so happens that February is the month for Black folks, there's a month for Asian Pacific Islanders, and, just about everybody has their own month or day or week or year at this point. So that's not to say it doesn't matter. That's just to say, if we're going to celebrate it, let's talk about it. So ZORA, okay, Neale, I think that's how you pronounce the middle name, Neale HURSTON, okay. She had this quote. She passed away in the 60s. I'm pretty sure if I read the Wikipedia page right, and Google's AI wasn't lying to me. You better not be lying to me, Gemini. And but on her official website, as you'll see on the screen here, there's this quote that I had saw that I just really thought encapsulated the Black spirit, and a person who was really trying to be the change they wanted to see in the world. And it says, quote, or she said, quote, "I have the nerve to walk my own way, however hard, in my search for reality, rather than climb up the rattling wagon of wishful illusions." Okay, that honestly should have been in your wisdom from you in OG, but when I saw ZORA say that, I was just like, yeah, we gotta talk about this individual. So, for those that don't know, ZORA HURSTON, influential linguistic study person, novelist, author of many books and poetry and things of that nature. And obviously, like I said earlier, it says here she passed away January 28th, 1960. So it actually was just her birthday a few days ago, because today's February 1st. And I just really wanted to speak this person's name into existence, let them live on a little bit in the Positivity Hour podcast. And I could obviously go into more detail, but this episode's about imposter syndrome, not ZORA. So I apologize, but we gotta move on. Okay, the next person I want to talk about is Carter G. Woodson. Okay, I literally was just like going through thinking about like, Black History Month. I wanted to do something around this on my platform, talk about, influential Black folk who have, changed the world in their own way a little bit. And obviously I think that one of these people who, got a lot of things going in the modern era should be talked about. So for Carter, as it says here on the NAACP website. Carter, I think I said Wilson earlier. I meant to say Woodson, WOODSON. Carter Woodson was a scholar whose dedication to celebrating the historic contributions of Black people led to the establishment of Black History Month, marked every February since 1976. Woodson fervently believed that Black people should be proud of their heritage, and all Americans should understand the largely overlooked achievements of Black Americans. Okay, so to loop Zora and Carter into, why I'm even talking about these two people for this time capsule is they are both two Black people that wanted you to know how great Black people could be, through, in the case of Zora, their own personal experiences, stories, how they were choosing to, walk through life, and how that affected them and those around them. To Carter, where he was more of a historian, you could say, and wanted to just be the person that would highlight people like a Zora, people like a, fill in the blank, because there's an endless amount of Black inventors, creators, actors, actresses. We could really spend hours and hours and hours on this, and I don't plan to do that, but I do plan to, do my part, talk about it, get it out into the world, and speak some life into these people's names, because they say, I forget the quote. It's something about like a bad man dies like 1,000 deaths or something like that. You know what? I'm not going to do you the disservice of trying to paraphrase this. I'm going to try and find this. What is this? Like 1,000 man death quote. This is really how I go about finding things that just be coming to my mind. If I can't find it, then I'll find it in the middle of one of the segment breaks, and I'll talk about it in the Wisdom from Your OG. But here's my last attempt. What is the quote where it talks about a man dying 1,000 deaths? Okay. And Google's, here we go. Okay. Google's AI is saying the quote you are looking for is likely a popular paraphrase of a line from William Shakespeare's play of Julius Caesar, Act 2, Scene 2, where they are often quoted saying, quote, "A coward dies 1,000 deaths, the brave but one." Okay. That was what people paraphrase. The original line is, quote, "Cowards die many times before their deaths. The valiant never taste of death but once." Why that's important here when talking about Zora or Carter or these other influential African Americans and their contributions to people who look like me in the greater world, is, a coward dies 1,000 times. They literally die when they die. Plus, every time their lie falls apart, or every time this false narrative, or whatever, you could see that thread where it's like, oh, there's that crack in their shell, this or that, or this or that. But a person of substance, of worth, of, such great magnitude of contribution to the world, they only die the last time someone speaks of their great name. So for both of these people, Zora, who's departed from this world, and has been departed for, what's that? That'd be 40 plus 26, 66 years now, because like I said, it was her birthday a few days ago. People are still ringing her name. Her website is still active, and you can still buy her books today. So, the valiant may only taste death but once. So, all that being said, that's your time capsule for today. Strictly positive on the Positivity Hour. Now let's get to the main topic.
Time for the main topic.
For today's main topic and the Let's Get Personal, I'll put the little video over there. And I just want to talk about really a great amount of thought I put into my life this week, where, to be honest with you, I did not get as much done as I wanted to. I found myself just kind of not working, And as a person who like works really hard or tries to work really hard, and I strive to be great, and I strive to like have a life worth living for, you know, wanting to like wake up and feel passionate about what I do and feel like I'm actually contributing to, you know, this greater society and world we live in, rather than just like trying to wait for a handout or something. You know, I've always struggled with like not working. You know, I've always struggled with like not pursuing the dream or the goals or the aspirations and all of this and more. And you know, one of the biggest reasons because of that has always been my like underlying imposter syndrome. Now, I'll give you the actual definition of imposter syndrome here, like the Oxford Dictionary, okay? Imposter syndrome is defined as a psychological pattern where individuals doubt their accomplishments and have a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud despite external evidence of their competence. It is not a formal mental health disorder or diagnosis, but a common experience that can affect anyone, particularly high-achieving individuals and marginalized groups, okay? Common symptoms: self-doubt, attributing success to external factors, fear of being, quote, found out, end quote, perfectionism, or overworking. That is definitely what I was doing at the peak of my imposter syndrome. Work as cope, and difficulty accepting praise, okay? Now, as is the main topic of this podcast, how did I overcome this? How did I beat my imposter syndrome? How did I, you know, finally become able to accept praise and not feel bad and feel like I didn't deserve it? How did I stop doubting myself? How did I stop fearing of being found out? And to give it to you short, and for the Instagram clip, I simply just believed in myself. And yes, it sounds like a cheesy answer. Yes, it sounds like a delusional response, but it is that simple. When you look at what is defined as imposter syndrome, self-doubt, the persistent feeling of not being good enough or worthy of success. Okay, what did I do to combat that? Every time I look myself in the mirror, dang, I feel good today. Dang, I know I'm worthy of what I have in life. Dang, I worked really hard to get what I have right now. You know, and it's a mental thing. You say it enough, it becomes your reality, okay? And most importantly, I was already doing the action. My mind just hadn't caught up yet. So that's like one way I was going about it. Attributing success to the external factors, believing accomplishments are due to luck, timing, or external help rather than personal ability. This was really big for me in college, and it's still big to me, still a big factor in the lingering imposter syndrome I experience to this day, where, you know, it does feel like I was just kind of in the right place at the right time. And back to the whole like self-doubt thing, you just have to tell yourself, yeah, that just happens. Two, that's the point, because you're only considered lucky, air quotes, when preparation meets an opportunity. And I'm a master overthinker, you know, I'm a master power thinker, as I've described it better, where I like to think through a situation. And I've thought through this intensely, where I understand that, yes, not everyone has had or will have the same opportunities in which I am grateful to have. But that being said, everyone on this earth is presented with a plethora of opportunities on a daily basis. And the amount of people I see with my own two eyes squander their opportunity, not take advantage of their opportunity, makes me not feel imposter syndrome, makes me not feel like I'm faking it till I'm making it, because the mere fact that, one, I can identify that, hey, everyone's going right when they need to be going left, and I decide to go left and it actually works out. There was no magic in that. I put some brain energy into it, I thought about it, and then I did the work until it worked out. And that has happened on a multitude of occasions in my life. Shout out Deion Sanders for the vocabulary. And yeah, I could keep going down this list. But I think you get the point. So that's like the textbook definition of like imposter syndrome and, you know, my response to how I beat it. But I want to give you specifically what I thought about this week pertaining to imposter syndrome, and in particularly the one line about like being found out, or the not even the perfectionism, but like just setting unrealistically high standards or over preparing to avoid any mistake that might reveal perceived inadequacies. Okay, that specific topic is one I thought about heavy this week, and it is because I don't know, I've just found myself in a position to where I'm once again getting some motion, as the kids would say, and I'm also trying to figure out how to transition from this hobby of mine, Darshaun Smith Productions, my production company I own, DSP, to a full-time job. And the thing that really got me down that rabbit hole of like the perfectionism and overworking concept and all of that was like, you don't know what you don't know. And I think the vast majority of my imposter syndrome comes from not knowing what to do. Specifically this time of year, it's tax time. I have so many questions, comments, and concerns because I've made a little money, but not enough to where it's like it's super crazy or whatever. But I've made enough where it's like, okay, like sales tax. Like, when do we pay that? How do we pay that? How do we do this? How do we do that? Exceptions, exclusions, this or that, or like the actual income tax, state tax, federal tax, local options tax. You know, what's excluded, what's tax revenue, pre-growth, net expenses, it gets complicated. And like I said, you don't know what you don't know. And I have the mindset and the belief that I will figure it out. I will work through this. And as Alex HORMOZI said, which we're going to talk more about in the Wisdom from Your OG, you just got to keep rolling the freaking dice, okay? You just got to keep showing up. You just got to keep trying. It'll all work out if you simply don't give up. And I understand that. But like I said, this week in particular, it just really got to me where I was just like, brother, like this is, my brain hurts. Like my existence, my identity in this earth, you know, is tied up in all of this. And I don't know. Like, I don't even know who I am, you know, like I was getting at like that stuff, you know. Well, it felt like I was on an acid trip or something, but I'm just joking. I wasn't. But like, you know, I was getting to like the deeper parts of my brain, just thinking about like core identity stuff, because it's like, dang, like, why am I so incompetent when it comes to this business stuff? And then you got to take a step back. This is, you know, getting towards the how I beat yet level 2 of this boss battle of imposter syndrome, where, you know, you just have to like stop reactively thinking, you know, so much, and start like actively thinking. So some people call the reactive thinking a spiral. Okay, they say you're spiraling. Okay, you're, you know, really just, you know, overthinking, having almost an anxiety attack over whatever is consuming your life. And this week it was me as a business owner and being overwhelmed with, I have to learn like how to successfully run a business and do it legally, but also like I still have to get good at this camera stuff, and like I have to get good at something to even sell to people, to even worry about the business stuff. I think that was the biggest problem, the biggest dynamic that I was really encountering. And the only way I got through it was I just had to stop spiraling, which literally happened like last night. Okay, so I was on the 7-day spiral pretty much, still working a little bit, but not at any high level that I would have wanted to be at, till we get to like this morning where it's like, okay, I could finally like think through this and like be like, okay, like, one, all of this can be solved if I just make more money, because then I could just pay people I could literally be taught this information. I could get into the right rooms where people are experts in this, you know. But also on top of that, I would also have more time to perfect the skill that, like I said, I'm trying to run a business here and I have to have something to sell. So I got to get good at the camera stuff. I have to get better at telling stories. I have to get better at lighting and sound design and all of these things and more, so I can help, business owners, service-based business owners, increase revenue, lead generation, things of that nature, but also, once again, helping the individual, just remember the good times in these crazy times. Remember what it was like to be young. Remember what it was like to feel passionate about a person or a thing and just feel proud about something, feel proud about their contribution to this world. And definitely, when we get, we as in me, myself, and I, become more successful in these business endeavors, I am hiring someone to work on this business stuff, because as an entrepreneur myself, I will admit, I'm not a good entrepreneur. I'm a creative person who has an interest from time to time in the back end business, but I just would rather let someone who's geeking out about like the new tax laws that change every other month. I'd rather have someone be like that versus me being like, oh, I'm over here reading this 10th article trying to figure out how to be compliant, when it's like, brother, I need to be marketing my business. I need to be like making Instagram content and, doing blog posts for SEO on my website. So I don't know. I say all of that to say, because I've said a lot. Imposter syndrome, in my opinion, Darshaun Romeo Smith here, is real, but you have the choice if you want to, go down the rabbit hole like Alice and spiral, or if you want to actively, passionately think about the reality in which you are currently in at this point in time. And for me, that is how I beat my case of imposter syndrome. When I experience let's go back to the definition. When I experience what we call imposter syndrome, the persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud despite external evidence of one's competence, it is simply because I don't know what I think I should know, okay? Oh, I don't know what I think society thinks I should know. That's when I hit peak imposter syndrome. But when I'm stopped spiraling like Alice down the rabbit hole and I start to think, it's like, brother, most people aren't even worried about you. Most people aren't even concerned about the things you think they would even be concerned about. And if they are, I have the factual data, recordings, numbers to back up some of my claims. Now, do I know everything? Hell no. Will I know everything? Hell no. But what I can tell you, talking to myself here, but also you, a person who's also battling with this, I assume if you've made it this far into the episode, it is okay, number one, okay? Number two, you got this. And number three, if you want to fix this problem, just get better at the craft. That is my only 3 pieces of advice for you, okay? Keep showing up, never give up, and just get better, okay? Taxes in this back-end business hurts my mind, and it gives me anxiety, and my sleep is very poor when I don't know how to run a business, okay? Like the profit and loss statements and the account registers and all of this, it hurts my brain. Okay, and it makes it so where I can't be a good creative and I can't be a good person helping other people feel comfortable in front of the camera. So I just got to get better. Okay, I just got to do the research. I just got to suck it up until I could pay someone enough money to worry about that for me. And then we just check in from time to time to make sure they're not scamming my ass. And then I let them cook. Okay. And then I go do what I actually love, okay? This the last thing I want to say. This is like more, let's get personal. This journey of entrepreneurship I've been on for the last almost, because I started the business in 2022, so 3.5 years now, has been a very good one. Financially, it has not been successful. It has been a glorified hobby that has not even paid for itself, it must be said. But I've learned so much about the world and myself, and I'm so glad I've went down this path for this long, and I can't wait to keep going down this path for this long. I have more to say about that, but let's get to the wisdom from the OG because it belongs there.
Wisdom from your OG.
But yeah, I have two quotes I want to talk about today. The first of which is a continuation of the main topic where I was talking about Alex Hormozi's ideology, where you just got to keep rolling the dice. Over there behind the camera, I have a book called $100 Million Leads, which Alex Hormozi authored. And around the last, 10 or 20 pages of the book, he has this analogy where it's like a dice game. As an entrepreneur, or just anybody doing anything in this world, you end up playing eventually. Some people get a dice with 20 sides. One side is green and the other 19 are red. And some people get a dice where one side is green and the next 199 sides are red. The game goes as follows. You have to roll a dice, and if you get a green, you turn one of the red sides green. So now if you're looking at the dice with 20 sides, if you roll a green, you'll now have 2 out of the 20 red, and if you roll a red, then nothing happens. You just have to keep rolling until all the sides are green. This is, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship, the beautiful thing about this game. You don't know what you have, okay? You could have a dice where it's 1 red and 1 green and roll red for 10 years straight, okay? But it makes it feel like you have that dice with like 1,000 red sides, when in reality, you're 1 step away. You could be 1 step away for the next 10 years, and if you just had got that one more dice roll in before you gave up, your life would be completely different. But there are also people on this earth who get the 200-sided die, and when they roll it, they still get green, like green after green after green, as it was, the odds were 1 out of 200, and then 2 out of 200, 3 out of 200, so on and so forth. The thing is, the reason why I bring all this up is this last week was me like rolling the die. I've never actually contemplated like, oh, this is when I give up my business, but I've just like this last week, I was like trying to roll the die, and I just was just having some friction. I was just like, why do I roll this thing? You know what I'm saying? Life would just be so much simpler if I just didn't try to roll this dice, trying to look for green sides. I've been rolling a lot of reds recently. You know what I'm saying? I've been rolling a lot of reds. Okay. But, I turned this camera on today and I talked about it, and, the podcast is like therapy, and, we're going to roll the dice some more, look for some more greens because, we started out strong. I got some greens already this year, some greens, some blues, and some pinks, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. That's the first thing I wanted to talk about, is just, hey, as the GOAT himself, Alex Hormozi, said, just keep rolling the damn dice, bro. It'll all work out. You only fail when you actually quit, okay? And if you got that true dog in you, this is me talking now. If you got that dog in you, you gonna keep rolling that dice to the end of time until you on your deathbed. At least for me, how I view it, I want to know that at least I tried. At least I gave it all I could give in my life. And I don't want to be one of those people that's like, all I did was work, so I'm trying to live life a little bit along the way. But I just want to know that like I set myself up for success to the best of my ability, and if I achieve it or not, I could die peacefully, okay? But I will achieve it because I'm not giving up, and that's the goal. The goal is the journey, okay? The outcome is cool, obviously, but the goal is the journey. So for me, at least. The second of which is a quote I got from the divorce attorney James Sexton. Homie is a G, as you know, if you have watched any of his content. And he said something on this podcast with Cody Sanchez, her podcast, The Big Deal, or I think is what it's called. And he essentially, I forget the question Cody had asked him, but he responded to it with, you know, people look at my life and say like, oh, I would never do something like that. And that's when James responded and be like, and that's why it'll never be me. And I was like, that shit was so hard. I ain't gonna hold you, gang. Where it's like, hey, like the reason I have the life I have, or the kids I want to have, or the wife I'm trying to get, or, you know, all of these things and more, the money, the fame, the success, the impact on the world, the community of people around me, is because of the things I've done and the trials and tribulations I've gone through. And the fact that you actively acknowledge that you don't want to go through your own trials and tribulations to get to your own dreams, goals, and aspirations, that's why you'll never be like me. And I'm just like, oh God, that was a bar. And with that, that's all I got. That's your wisdom from your OG, and I guess some OGs out there, because both of those people are in their 30s and 40s, 50s, or whatever. And yeah, that's all I got. Next week's topic. Probably something positive once again. Probably something pertaining to do with Black History Month once again. And maybe a story. I wanted to do a story of some kind this week, but like I said, I was too worried about reading out how to use QuickBooks better and other business stuff and a profit and loss statement and taxes, and my brain was just like, so I'll work on that next week or something. So look alive, being an entrepreneur is hard, and it took way more energy out of my brain than I thought it would. And yeah, but we're still showing up. I'm still gonna roll that damn dice. All that being said, for the outro, thank you for your time. Thank you for being you, my friend. Thank you for, you know, just being here and listening. You know, thank you, especially to the people on the clips. Shout out to my brother and my older sister, both of my two older siblings. You know, my sister on YouTube and my brother on, my sister on Instagram and my brother on YouTube. Y'all always be like supporting me or commenting or liking, even when the video's low-key trash or something. You know, you'll still comment and say something. Like it means a lot. You know, genuinely, just having any amount of support. You know, getting some views obviously is great and all, but you know, I'm not out here like basing my self-worth off of the fact that 2 of my 3 last Instagram clips got like 100 views, and on YouTube they got 50 views. You know, like if I was doing that, then obviously I would start like twerking on the camera and talking about like other crazy topics to get views. But I'm here to talk about things I want to talk about that are relevant to my life, that I hope that a person like you can also, you know, relate to. You know, because we've all dealt with imposter syndrome. We've all had a tough week where we've thought about stop rolling the dice and wanting to give up. You know, we've all been through some trials and tribulations, and I just want to give you my take on the matter on like how I was able to, you know, persevere and keep showing up. So thank you for all the support. I really do appreciate it. Without you, you know, I would just be a dude in his bedroom talking to himself, you know. And yeah, but at least we got a few of y'all watching and listening, so thank you. Especially on like Apple. I got to show y'all the data on this next week. But Spotify, if you remember a few episodes ago, I did that whole like wrapped year in review episode, and my Spotify data was up through the roof. Brother, I need to log into my Apple podcast, because for like the audio version of this, like literally all of my viewership was on Apple devices. And mind you, I have Samsung here, Lenovo laptop behind me, Lenovo laptop right next to me here. You know, not an Apple TV, you know, or anything special. So like I look at that data, and it's very encouraging that it's like real people that I may not even know actually watch this, okay? Like real people on their own separate platforms have found me in their own special way. And it's a dream, bro. Like I know I got impact out here. I know someone's watching this and being like, hey, I'm gonna think about that differently. Or, you know, okay, that's a cool take. I'm gonna be the exact opposite of that guy. Cool beans, okay? Be the change you want to see in the world. At least I had a little part in that, okay? Thank you. Enough rambling. I gotta edit this and carry on with my life. I need some caffeine. I'm going through withdrawals. But yeah, until we meet again, goodbye, and stay positive, get the bread, like, subscribe, unsubscribe, hate, comment, unfollow, follow, share, or report. I don't care what you do, just get the bread, and we gone. Fade to black. Woo!
DSP, we capture moments.
I'm in my G'd up zone. I'm about to get it in, kick your feet up, home. Days turn to weeks when you're always on the grind all night. I got my re-up back. I'm about to get it in, I'll be right back.
Nate, high lows to those who don't know the name. And G'd up, yup, that's the only thing I claim.